going to do, Chazan residence, is going to do this 4-series lecture
I need a good laugh
opera
today.
and the history.
We'll be starting in a few minutes, folks.
So I raised the question, and our
Teacher, have
rabbi
a drive
says if
manual.
it's
I need a
okay
good
with
laugh
the
today.
Chavrusa.
With the chevra,
Chevra.
with the group. If everybody wants to be here at 11:30,
If we start a half hour later, we could catch David's talk.
Oh.
So if it's okay with him, if it's okay with
good
him.
morning, good morning.
Okay, so we've got a majority so far.
That's a majority. We have.
When does it start?
You guys going to the opera class? Who's going to opera?
That's not the question, actually. The question is, would you come to class at 11:30? Because I'm not going to go to the opera thing.
Yeah,
But I'm fine with 11:30.
Yeah, I'm fine with 11:30. I'll do it for Harvey, but I'm not going to the opera thing.
No.
You scared
You
everybody.
have to go to the opera.
No.
If you don't go to the opera, you don't get a pass to come here. Okay? No.
I'll be here whenever
You have to go to the opera and
11 or 11:30,
suffer.
I'll be here.
Okay. Okay, the lady with the horn helmet on.
Oh no, Wagner is a very, very small part of opera.
Okay, fine. Right? Oh
Good
man.
morning.
Hashem help us. Okay. We're gonna start today. Okay, 1 second. Let's just load up here. We're still waiting to load.
They had a class yesterday.
Did you
and
want to go, by the way?
limited seats, so.
Is your tuning fork?
Yeah, those are my tuning forks.
I didn't
Those
need
are
to.
in my Creating Angels class.
And I'm not taking my Adderall today.
Okay, we're starting chapter 7 today.
13 inches.
Chapter 7 is on page because it doesn't have a marking, right? My pages have no numbers. It's after 98 though, so we can assume that chapter 7 is 99.
No page.
Exactly.
99.
You got it, 99. Okay, here we go. Are we ready, everybody? Testing 1, 2, 3.
Ready.
Okay, we're starting chapter 7 today. Delves deeper into the subject of new souls and old souls. We talked about this before. We're going to get a little bit deeper into the idea of the concept of new souls versus old souls. Okay, I'm going to give you a little bit of a hakadama here because David did ask a question before. That we have a concept, as we know about this array, that we have different what we call partsufim. Partsufim, I don't know if it comes out there. Partsufim, as we have the names of these basic long face, Abba, Ima. We have Zer Anpin. You got to know your jargon. This is like technical jargon. Zer Anpin, which means small face. And then we'll have Nukva or Malchut, the feminine. These are all masculine. These are feminine. I want you to understand, you have to write down this number, the very important number for you, 3.61. 3.61. Okay? What is 3.61? Almost, right?
The golden number, the golden ratio.
Now, when we
whatever.
talk about the 10 sefirot, okay, that we know that there are lower 7, as I drew a line here. There's the lower 7, and then there's the upper 3. This is very important for us to go forward in this. Now, the lower, as you'll see now, how are these? This is a partsuf, we say, is a set of all 10. When we talk about a partsuf, we're saying, I got it. I got all 10 concepts on this certain world, in this certain dimension. I got all 10 concepts, or 10 garments. Let's look at that as garments, okay? So they're not built and they don't come together all at the same time. The way we understand it, just to put this and these two together, okay? We'll put this is called nukva, or this is the feminine, okay? The feminine sphera, where we are, and this is what everything we have to develop. Above us is the Ein Sof, as we know. Ein Sof. Ein Sof means no end. We're all trying to connect to the infinite. And the infinite actually started off as a base of 6 sphirot. The basis is of Zer Anpin, starts off as six sphirot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? But of course, the 6 sphirot, even combined with this, is not whole because we're missing the top 3, which are called mental sphirot. Okay? These mental sphirot, when they attach to the rest of these sphirot, these illuminations, they don't attach as a means of being part of their essential. They're called a tosefet. Tosefet, which means an addition. The way that we relate to it, as I will hopefully bring, and if I forget, please remind me at the end of this class, that we know in Shabbat, we get what's called a neshama yesera. In Hebrew, it's a neshama yesera. In English, it means extra soul. So very much like Zeir Anpin gets these extra 3 sfirot, it doesn't get these extra 3 sfirot as part of its essence. They are an addition. Now the question is why? Okay? Why do these come, these extra 3 sfirot? In order to build all 10, we need these 3, but they only come in the form of an addition. Now why? Okay? And the reason is, and that's called Zeir Anpin. Adam Arishon was made in the exact same format as the upper spheres. In other words, in the cosmic realm, Zeir Anpin, the realm of the infinite, was created in such a format, such a formula of 6 garments, not all 10, or 6 plus 1 is 7. And this is why we go 3.6,
Can you say again what
1.
Zeir Anpin is?
Zeir Anpin is the infinite. Ein Sof.
It's the whole thing?
It's
though?
these. Yes. And in terms of, let's say, to build all of Zeir Anpin, that Zeir Anpin becomes a complete partsuf, becomes a complete expression. Of course, it needs all 10. Okay? It's connected to the feminine, and these 3 come, and it's all connected. But this is why I said write down the numbers 3.61. Okay? 3 of these, 0.61. Okay? The bottom of the pole is 0.01, 0.63. Okay? 3.61. Very important number. And the reason is because to understand what does it mean by this addition. Why are these 3 sfirot built in the cosmic realm come, the extra soul, extra consciousness comes as something of an additional nature. And it's because it's set up in the earlier form that God knew that man was going to screw up. And basically, bottom line is because when man sins, if all of his soul is together and he's all that soul and he sins, he blemishes his soul. And in order to prevent, it's what we call it's a safety valve, right? In order to prevent the higher parts of the soul getting blemished, these 3 come as only an addition, so that when man sins, but because it's only an addition and it's not part of the essence, they can leave. They split. Okay? So therefore, they don't get blemished. It's like a safety valve, cutoff valve, ejector seat, we're out. In other words, the place is going down, push the ejector button, eject, we're out, we're gone. Okay? The higher realms. So they can come as an addition, but then they can also split if damage is happening. If there's damage.
Do they come back? You have to work to bring them back.
Yes.
Is this the rule of Shtut?
Kind of, yes, because obviously these 3 do represent the mental sphirot of the mind. Okay? And of course, when a person is going to fall, to sin, they say that a person doesn't sin unless he enters into him the ruach shtuyot, the spirit of stupidity. Meaning he goes out of his mental consciousness, his full clarity. By the way, and I've mentioned this before, God put a sleep on Adam Harishon. He put a deep sleep upon Adam, right? And it doesn't say in the verse that he ever woke him up, right? He has not been woken. That means us. And the Kotzker Rebbe says every single generation we have to make it an essential goal to wake up, to be clarity, to have clarity in every generation, okay? Because that sleeping that Adam underwent, that he never woke up from, it's not a total sleeping, of course, but whatever it is, it was a lack of certain level of consciousness that because of that he sinned. Okay? In other words, if he had the total clarity, he would not have sinned. God had to take the level of clarity. It's a deep thing. Okay? So, and anyways, with that hakadama, with that little, so we understand that really Adam was made in the same pattern, the same format, the same formula as Zer Anpin, as small face, as the infinite. As we know that we're all made in the image and likeness of God. Okay? So with that, now we start here. Okay? Types of soul. 3 types of soul. Okay, we ready? We have already explained that there are some souls that were not part of Adam Arishon's soul when it was first created. Now this is kind of a contradiction, because we know that every single soul that is born in this world did come from Adam. So this is what I just explained to you now. To explain it, that when it means that they were not part of Adam Arishon's soul when it was first created, which means they were there as a addition. They were part of the first 3. Okay, not the 0.61. Okay? So they were there, but they were just hanging out. Okay? These are truly completely new souls. In other words, when new souls come into the world, they come from that place. If you would encounter such a new soul, so it means that they come from the world of Atzilut, this realm of Adam that was only an additional soul, part of the main 3, that split before Adam had sinned. So they're called new souls, even though they were kind of part of Adam, but not there as an essential. Someone knocking on the door? Okay, just let them knock. Okay. Whereas the souls that were already included in Adam Arishon are called old souls, by comparison of which there are 2 types of old souls. Okay, so there's new souls and old souls. Oh, here we go. We have to have my man. This is a continuation of the last chapter. The new souls that are those that are being born anew from, we call that the unification of face to face. So when we call unification of face to face, let us pause for one moment in meditative silence. Okay, we're going to change the time definitely to 11:30 next time. Okay. That one when he comes at 11. Okay. That's so not fair. Okay, it's fair. Are you in for 11:30?
Sure.
Oh, you're.
Is it start next week?
Just for 4 sessions.
Does it start next
Yes,
week?
Yes, the 17th.
Because there's an opera class that you must attend.
David Crone.
That you must attend the opera.
David
And
Crone.
sit in through it and tied, and we're going to tie and gag you.
Oh my God.
No, I'm just kidding.
You should make a Kabbalistic connection with opera.
It's music and
Opera and
Kabbalah.
Torah.
Hey.
Let's not. Okay.
11:30 next week?
Yes.
You have to understand.
Harvey
he doesn't have
says
time
yes.
Because I'm going to try to tie it to ballet instead of opera for him.
Ballet, opera, and Torah. That's our next series. Okay. What? Sleeping in Torah has been done. Okay.
It was a woman for a program.
Okay, fine. All right.
Oh, it sounded like.
Okay. All right. Okay, so we speaking about souls that are born anew, coming from the unification of face to face, which means they're coming from a complete unification. Face to face is a level of consciousness that we speak about when Adam and Chava, or Zer Anpin, infinity, and the feminine are together in the exact high stature, facing each other. That means a level of completion. Okay, that means where creation has reached its fulfillment. That means God. The soul and the connection to God are in the highest possible potential. Okay? The potential is actualized. Yeah.
At what point in the evolution did they go from back to,
Back to face to face.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where did they hit the midpoint so that...
Okay. Just to give you a little bit of a background. Okay? That I did skip chapter 6, the end part of chapter 6, because it went into the 8 stages of that development. Okay, the 8 stages of the development of the back to back to the front to front is basically, I was taught in the Eitz Chaim it's 7, but he brings down here it's 8. Okay? Because really what happens is the back-to-back starts off at there's like 1, 2, 3, 4 back here, and then when they turn face-to-face, she starts off at the bottom and then goes up 1, 2, 3.
Oh, it's not, okay.
Or 1,
It's
2,
not-
3, 4.
It's not just an
It's not a
image.
dynamic.
Yeah.
It's you have to build the feminine. It's all about building the vessel. It's really a very dynamic, deep stuff. And God willing, if we get enough people who are interested in starting Kabbalah 101 again, okay, just how to make a time or where to do that, how, okay, we'll build into the entire thing. The entire spectrum, you'll see how it is. And then you get, and then when you understand exactly the map and how we affect things, and then things bleed back down here, which is how everything is going all the time. Okay, we're just not aware of it, but the map helps us to be aware of it. That every time you're thinking, you're pushing a button. Every time you're speaking, you're pushing a button, and it has an effect in the spiritual realm that bleeds back down here. Things, okay, a lot of dynamics, and if you have it in mind, if you're focused on it, it's quantumized, the effect that you have. In other words, if you are understanding that when you pray, you're building a partzuf, you're building a connection that ends up being like this, it's quantumized. And then the influx, the blessings that come down into this world, the levels of consciousness of the entire world become elevated because of your meditation. Okay? Your meditation affects a lot of things. Okay? So the idea here is in history, it's kind of hard. I told you in history, it was King Solomon was like this. Because you're talking about evolution, you mentioned. You questioned about that. So, King David and King Solomon, they couldn't quite get there. They were almost. Of course, God had other plans. He says, we're not ready for this yet. Okay? Let's sweat it out a few more. Okay? So then it went back down and like this. Now we're in exile. Right? So I don't know where we are in the exile of right now, back to back. But even in our back-to-back state like right now, right? There's, in the middle of it, there's also these different connections, zivugim, okay? These connections that we're still making. For example, let's just cut to the chase here, okay? I'll bring down here. So it says here, the abundance of the world proceeds from the zivug of Zun, which we explained. Zivug means coupling of Zer Anpin, small face, infinity, and Nukva, the feminine. Feminine is our ability to receive, the Shekhinah. Okay? In other words, when the Ein Sof and the feminine get together, right? So that's when it makes that there to be an opening. We'll call it Sinure Shefa, pipes of abundance flow into this world. And it's usually always in the level of consciousness. Because it's all about getting the thought. It's all about once you got it, you got it. Once you got it in thought, once you grasped, everything else just falls into place. Right? Won't you agree? Once you got it, you got it. So anyways, there are 5 zivugim. There are 5 of these couples that go throughout the day. I'm going to share it with you now. Okay, one is Israel and Rachel, Yaakov and Rachel, Israel and Leah, Yisroel and Leah, Yaakov and Leah from the chest up, Yaakov and Leah from the chest down. So there was different kinds of, you see, so Yaakov and, right? There's Yaakov, Yisroel. As we know that Yaakov and Yisroel, what does that represent? We'll get into that later, probably a lot later. But I'm just giving you the idea here of throughout the day, he's going to explain, or throughout the week, these things are happening. Okay? And if you hook into them, it becomes the dynamic, the effect becomes quantumized. Okay? Shacharit, in the morning service, that is the zivug of Yaakov and Rachel. Actually, it's in Sim Shalom. When you're in the Shmoneh Esrei, the last blessing of the Amidah, the silent prayer, that's boom. That's Yaakov and Rachel. Mincha, in the afternoon, is Yisroel and Leah. Whatever that represents, it's a different kind of connection that gives rise to a different kind of influx of energy and information. Okay? The evening prayer is Yaakov and Leah from the chest up. There's different dynamics. Like I say, I'm giving you like the end. You're clueless, but at least I'm exposing you to something. Okay? Tikkun Chatzot, that's the favorite time, the midnight prayer, right? King David instituted is Yaakov and Leah. That's Yaakov and Leah from the chest down. The Zivug of Yisrael in Rachel is realized during the tefillah of Musaf on Shabbat and some holidays and on other special occasions. In other words, the highest possible connection where there's an unbelievable influx of energy. And I'm going to share you what this means at the end of this class, okay, is Yisrael and Rachel, okay? And that is Musaf on Shabbat. In the Musaf service on Shabbat, when you're standing in the Kedusha prayer, as all y'all doing, right? And you're going, I am a Kom Kavodo, right? And you're answering the prayer, boom! That is the zivug of Yisrael and Leah. It's a higher connection that you potentially can make, okay? All I'm just saying is, just to give you a flavor, throughout the course of the day and the week, there's different connections that are happening. So it's really like, yes, in the spans of history, it goes like this. In the spans of a year, it's going like this. In a year, like your winter is like this. Or really, the biggest dynamic that it brings down is the 10 days of tshuva, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and then you have Sukkot. Right? They bring this down in all the kavanot, that the 10 days of repentance. Rosh Hashanah is the operation of the heads severing. And all the 10 days of tshuva, or each one of the 10 sfirot, the backs are severing. Right? That's why you have to be very careful those 10 days of tshuva. Okay? Because it's like there's in the cosmic realm, there's an operation that's going on. Right? So you got to walk on eggshells. You got to be careful with what you do, what you say. Because it's like this is a very sensitive operation that's going on. So then, what happens, and then you have, after that, then you have Sukkot. And Sukkot works like this until finally on Shmini Atzeres, was where we dance with the Sefer Torah. Simchas Torah, it's like this. Simchas Torah is the highest connection. You must dance with the Sefer Torah on Simchas Torah. You have to be joyous, because then all the blessings, all the shefa, unbelievable pipes of shefa are flowing, and you have the ability, the potential to reach your potential on this time when it's like this. It's like the window of opportunity. It's just like now, we're in the 13th month. There is no mazel for this month. You know that? Every month has a mazel. Every month has a constellation. Zodiac sign. What's your sign? My sign is keep off the grass. Okay? So every month has a sign, except this is the leap year. We have an extra month that has no sign. It's above. We're in the cosmic void here. All your prayers go right to Shemayim. You can affect things in the most dynamic way on this month. And the biggest avoda of this month is increase happiness. You have to work on joy, big time. Okay?
Rabbi, why is Simchas Torah and Shemini Atzeret in one day in Israel and 2 days out of Israel?
I wish I could answer you. I really do. We're suffering.
Okay.
It's like a reminder. You got to do 2 days because you're in exile. Okay? That's really the vort, really. We have to have 2 days of Yom Tov because it's really a penalty for us living in Houston. That's right. It's not a penalty. It's not enough of the heat. The heat's not enough. And the mosquitoes ain't enough. Right? And the bad air ain't enough. You got to have 2 days of Yom Tov. 1 day is going to be, and it doesn't make sense to me. I'm telling my heart, it does not make sense that we dance on the second day. Okay? But we have to go with the consensus. But there are people who do hakafas. Hakafas is when you dance with the Sefer Torah on that night itself of Shmini Atzeres. Okay? They do what? Chabad does it, and even Young Israel does it. They have a little renegade hakafas. You know? Because it's really when Israel is, all our blessings come from Israel. right? So if Israel is doing that, why aren't we? All right? So, so it's like this, you're missing, it's a connection. I don't understand it, but you have to go with the consensus. They do Hakafas the second day. Okay.
But isn't
Right.
that based on the observation of the moon and the Israel?
Totally, and they have the calendar set already, and I
Okay.
can't wait for Mashiach to come to say enough with this CSCRA, and we're gonna, and I'm not gonna finish the next letter, okay? And you guys are gonna just keep one day Yom Tov. But listen, the rabbis say people are too comfortable out there. Our place is really to be in the land of Israel. In the land of Israel, it's one day, right? Except for Rosh Hashanah, right? Every holiday is one day. In Chutz La'aretz, it's going to always be 2 days because that is your fine. That's your tax. It's a
Okay.
spiritual tax.
The Yom Kippur.
All right, but I was going to say that originally wasn't it, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, it was. It was by Adam and the
But
moon and the
originally-
testimony and
let
the...
me say what I want to say.
Okay.
Originally, my understanding is that the original idea was that it was based on astronomical observation in the land of Israel.
Correct.
And possibly before the Hillel fixed the calendar, they would in exile or whatever, in the diaspora, they would just to make sure to celebrate 2 days, just to
Correct.
make sure that they don't miss a day.
Correct. Absolutely. That's absolutely correct. Okay? All right. Here, so let's go. So where are we on this little paragraph here? The new souls are those that are being born from a unification of face to face. Okay, and it means that they've reached a complete state. Since they are new, they were never included in the soul of Adam Harishon. The old souls that were included in the soul body of Adam Harishon were born from the unification of back to back. But these, the Rav is now adding that there are 2 types of back-to-back type souls. In other words, you have front-to-front souls, face-to-face souls, meaning total connection. They've reached a level of completeness. Versus back-to-back, they need a Gilgul. They need to be renewed. Okay. Thus, there are 3 types. The first being those which are not included in Adam Harishon and which are considered to be completely new souls. Okay. The second type of soul. Souls of type 2 will now be explained, but the Rav's explanation is wordy and purposely contrived to leave room for misunderstanding, as was the custom of Kabbalistic writing in his time. In other words, they have to be convoluted. They can't give it all away on black and white. They got to make it a little bit tricky that you can't figure it out, because if you figure it out, it's going to make problems. Okay? So purposely the Kabbalists need to hide. The classic rule is they reveal a tefach, that means a handbreadth, and they're hiding 2 at the same time. Okay? That's how they would work. In other words, they don't want to give away everything on black and white. Okay? Because otherwise you'll figure out the winning numbers of the lottery and all hell can break loose. Okay? So they have to hide stuff. So, okay? As a result of Adam's sins, his limbs, quote unquote, fell off. Here's where you see it in explicit writing. I've shared this with you before, okay? When Adam sinned, his limbs fell off. In other words, the sparks of his soul bodies fell into the realm of the klipot. Corresponding this, his physical stature was also reduced. His stature was reduced until he was no higher than 100 cubits. And your question is, what is a cubit?
18 inches.
There you go, about 1.5 feet, correct? 1.5 feet, 100 cubics makes 150 feet. I don't know this, okay? We're just looking at the words. We'll put it on a shelf. When Adam Harishon is resurrected at the resurrection day, will he be 150 feet tall? We'll see, okay? We'll see, okay? Could be they come out of that Marot HaMachpelah, the cave of the Machpelah, which is where the resurrection is going to be. The resurrection of the dead, everybody comes out of the cave of the Machpelah.
Everyone comes out of the cave of Machpelah?
That's according to, yes. They don't come up like sprouting up. Even though there's another, like the zombies in the graveyard that of all the zombie movies, right? So it's not like that. But even though there is a different state, like they made it also convoluted. The Gomorrah and Sanhedrin, the last paragraph, which speaks about the resurrection of the dead, they got you. They got you spinning in circles. You can't put A to B and B to C. They make it specifically like that. You're not going to know. You're just going to have little bits and pieces of information. And of course, what happens is when it happens, you're going to go, okay, now I got it. All right. And it's good for that. In other words, it keeps you hungry. Okay? So it's good to have a little hunger. It's good to not know. Okay? So that eventually we will know, and then it'll all make sense. Okay? But so there is another text which does say that they sprout like wheat sprouts, because they ask, do the dead come up with clothes on? Because I know some things I just won't want to see. Okay? So, right. What's it going to be like? What's it going to be? So it says just like wheat comes up and it has clothes on it. It has its husks. So people come up with clothes. Okay? So whether it comes out of the Machpelah, they're coming up like that, but it sounded like they were like almost like sprouting. So it could be that they're sprouting in the fields too. Like, right?
Does it matter?
Can you imagine your son comes in and go, David, Uncle Bob is sprouting in our garden. Okay. Okay. Sorry about that little colorful imagery there.
I think clothes are the least of our problems.
Okay, so exactly. All right, but in any case, the Gemara asked that question. But a tradition is that they all come out of the cave of the Machpelah. That is the cave of where the patriarchs are buried. Of course, they will come out first. Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, right, with their wives. And are they 100 feet tall, 200 feet tall? Adam was 100 cubits, but that's not all. This is the sod of the verse, and you laid your hand upon me, that brings down in Psalms. Just as it happened to his body, so it happened to his soul as well. In other words, the stature of his soul also shrunk. In other words, Adam's, the first man, Adam's stature, his level of his soul consciousness was huge, right? Just look at it as big, expansive. It's known that he saw all the generations that would come out from him. Every single human being that was going to be born in the world in all of the millennia. He saw it. He saw them all. That's a lot of phone books, isn't it? Thank God he had the app. Okay. In any case, he saw all the souls that were coming out of him. Okay, so in other words, his stature was huge spiritual-wise. But after the sin, his physical body shrunk and his soul body shrunk. Okay? This is recorded in the Talmud in Chagiga 12a. As a result of Adam's sin, God laid his hand upon him and diminished his stature. Prior to Adam's sin, it was said that he had been 500 cubits high, 750 feet. That's big. Okay? Like I say, we're just going to leave that as a nice little... Can't wait to see what that means.
Did he play basketball?
There were those sparks. Okay, let's get into the spiritual aspect of it.
Sounds like gematria.
There were those, it could be, and it could all be, I'm telling you. It could all be, oh, okay, it was gematria and it means this and this and this. And you'll see the formula equals MC squared and you'll go, wow. Okay? There were those sparks of his soul that remained with him, but you got the words. You've been exposed. At least what we do here is expose you to texts, right? There were those sparks of his soul that remained with him after the sin, which were necessary for Adam Arishan himself. In other words, he sinned. Sparks of his soul flew out all over the world. But yet, of course, he's still alive. I'm still here, right? And so because there's an aspect of his life, his chiyus still remains with him. So there were some aspects of his soul that were still with him at the time. Some parts left him, right? I left my heart, right? That's right. I don't think it's in San Francisco. I hope not, okay? Something else is in San Francisco. We got to get those sparks out of there. So in any case, in other words, some sparks did not fall, but remained with Adam Arishan for his own existence. Most of these were transmitted to his children, Cain and Hevel. These constitute the second level of souls that will be discussed in this chapter. Okay? After his sin, he fathered Cain and Abel. According to the most of the sages, in Curated Rabbi Eliezer and the Zohar, it was from these sparks that Cain and Hevel came. Okay, so these are called the souls of the second type, because we're talking about three types of souls. New, and then there's two, which are going to be old. This is going to be called a semi-new, and this is going to be called an old. Okay? So here he's going to be talking about from Cain and Abel are going to be like a semi-new, or old class 1. And they're as opposed to old class 2. Okay? The third level of those sparks of his soul that left him at the time of the sin, and which returned to the depths of the klipot. Okay, interesting. Why does he say the word returned? Okay, why go back? Unbelievable. So they are the limbs that fell off. Note that the Rav writes explicitly that they returned to the depths of the klipot. It has been suggested, this is from another parish called the Bnei Aharon, that they ascended from those sparks that fell at the time of the shattering of the vessels and the death of the kings. Okay? And then they fell again at the time of the sin of Adam Arishon. Okay? However, it is not the place here to explain that the event of the dynamics that might be involved in this recycling. Okay? In other words, to get into the death of the 7 kings of Canaan, to get into the whole cataclysmic event that happened primordial, Hashem built and destroyed 7 worlds before this world. Okay? This is what we have in tradition. So, those 7 worlds that were built and destroyed was really, in the creation, it created the realm of the klipot, the realm of the husks, the realm of an illusion of something else other than God. That was what it was about. Again, the illusion that there is something else other than God. He had to really make it real. In other words, the matrix. Okay? So he had to make that. So then what happened was, after he just built and destroyed 7 of these realms, 7 worlds, okay?
I mean, this is the 7th one, no? This is the 8th?
No, this is the 8th.
Oh.
We're in the 8th kingdom.
When he
Okay?
created, was it first destroyed? Does it have something like 2 worlds going on at the same time?
Well, really, I'll just tell you in a nutshell. He created these 7 vessels, but these 7 vessels were arranged in such a way where they received he built a vessel, and then he put too much light in it, and it received too much light and broke. Mm-hmm. And in the level of shattering, the breaking, that created some, what we'll call, the illusion of other than God. Okay? So that's what it means. You know, it's hard to explain. There's a lot of depth that goes into it. But in any case, each one received too much light. To receive too much light results in a breaking.
You make it seem like God made a mistake.
You're right. You're like, that's that. I would like to say other words, but I'm a rabbi. Okay? So in any case, no, but it's a very important rule what you're saying. Of course he did make a mistake, because this is, like I say, he had a very dynamic intention, because you understand, when you're creating a soul, the soul, which is us, has to have absolute free will. In other words, the ultimate idea is to choose God. Okay? The ultimate idea, the ultimate path of our development is to come from our own free will, that God, you're it. There's nothing else other than you. And only to connect to God, and only to have that unbelievable dynamic relationship with God. Has to be free will. So in other words, in order to have to be free will, there has to be an other than. That has to be like,
There has to be a plot twist.
do I go for the coffee, or do I go for God? Coffee, God. Maybe I can have coffee, ballet, opera, and God. Okay, so okay, so
Did they have, the
stop.
people in that world?
What?
Did they have people in that
And
world?
there's other worlds.
In the 7 worlds?
No.
Pre-Adamic civilization.
No, maybe no. Even though there was one rabbi who did say, the dinosaurs was an outgrowth of one of those 7 worlds. There was the big rabbi, the Yachin Boaz, who comments on the Mishnah 1,000 years ago, said, great, they found bones of dinosaurs, no problem. We understand that there were 7 worlds that God made and destroyed. It's one of them. Why did he have remnants of these and not the other ones? I don't know. Because he needed fossil fuels. Really, my idea that he had in mind to create fossil fuels because a man can drive a car. Okay?
Okay, so who had free will if there were no people then? Dinosaurs?
It wasn't the aspect of free will. Okay? It's a primordial idea, and it's conceptual. We can't understand it in our earthly realm. But just go walk with me here. There were vessels, abilities to receive, that broke because they weren't receiving in the right way. Okay? They weren't receiving in the right way. He purposely made it like that. He purposely set them up for them to break in order to create an illusion of other than God. It's all about that. Now, what happened was the 7 days of creation, what was happening during the 7 days of creation? The 7 days of creation, God was fixing each one of them. Boom, 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 boom. It was fixing them. They were repairing. All the holy sparks were gathering from all of those shards of the broken vessels, and were getting perfectly aligned one day at a time. That's why there's 7 days of the week, because they go after pattern after those seven primordial vessels. Now, what happened was day 6, we're almost there. We have to have a creation that has free will. Adam, one thing I'm giving you to do, just one thing. Empty the garbage. Just remember to take out the garbage. No, just that. No, just don't eat from that tree. That's one thing. Just do that. Come on, you can do this, right? Yes, I can do this. I can do this, right? Okay, but of course it was all, to put it bluntly, a setup. Okay?
I thought there was only 6 days of creation, and the 7th day.
Shabbos.
Shabbos, yeah.
Yes, you're right, but it's a part of the 7 cycle.
Right.
The idea really would have
Didn't
been.
do anything.
Okay, so all of these shards were being fixed. Day 1, day 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 until day 7. And day 7, the tree of knowledge being eaten. The tree of knowledge was going to be permissible to eat on Shabbos. The tree of knowledge of good and evil was okay to be eaten on Shabbos. If it was eaten on the Shabbos day, boom. Then even the 7th day was going to be repaired. All of the sparks have been elevated, and it would have been an unbelievable connection, an unbelievable expression of God's divine will in that way. Of course, God had a much better plan, which was let him mess up, and then so he's got to work his way through the tree of knowledge of good and evil for 6,000 millennia. Mankind has to stretch through, mounds of unbelievable pain and suffering, right? And to work you got to work your way through it. Because then what happens? Then you build a vessel, and then you'll appreciate the relationship of God in a higher way. It's a real relationship. It's a sincere relationship. It's not dancing with a mannequin. God did not create a robot or a mannequin to dance with in the ballroom dance, because that's bogus. It has to be a real free will. It has to be like this. There has to be a partner that absolutely chooses you and only you and nothing else. I'm not dancing with the devil anymore. Okay? Okay? No more dance with the devil. Okay? So, the idea here is all of those sparks, and Adam had all of those sparks in him from the 7 days. That's what he's referring to. Those sparks he was already in his soul, were a lot of those sparks that were already in the process of almost being fixed. All he had to do was wait for the download to complete, right? Of the tree of knowledge was in the process of getting fixed. The tree of knowledge of good and evil was in the process. If he would have waited till Shabbos, boom. But no, okay? Once he sinned, those sparks that were in his soul, and we're almost there, that came originally from the 7 days, the 7 shattered vessels before, back into the Klippa. Okay?
If Adam and Eve were face to face, that means Eve had an equal stature.
Yeah, yes, but not. They weren't always like that. They didn't start off like that.
He rose to that.
Oh.
Right? And it's all just a conceptual. You got to take yourself. You have to take a step back and understand that whole thing it's a conceptual. The feminine is the receiving, and the masculine is the Ein Sof, the infinite giving. The idea for the ultimate expression of God's infiniteness in this space-time dimension, in our creation right now, is that he's bestowing infinite, and there's a receiving of infinite. Somebody's got to receive. And then that is an expression of God's infiniteness. Okay? Just one of infinite expressions. Okay?
Where do we learn that the Shabbos, if you eat the forbidden fruit, it's okay on Shabbos? Where do we learn that from?
That's the Ari. The Ari says that.
The Ari says that.
Yeah. The Ari says on Shabbos evening, if he would have eaten it on Shabbos evening and waited till Shabbos evening, then it would have been, the creation would have been complete.
These 7 worlds, since what we call the Big Bang, or before that?
I don't know anything about Big Bang, baby.
Okay.
I can't.
Before.
I can't. Yeah, I would say, because anything that has to relate to what people would call the Big Bang. Big Bang is this is before. Okay. because Big Bang is already talking about substance, some kind of substance,
Yeah.
even though it was like this big, like real small.
Right.
Okay.
Nachmanides described it.
That's awesome.
Well,
That's cool. Okay, good to know. I'm sorry, I'm not an expert in Nachmanides, but that's good.
But let me make a comment. You were talking about Ein Sof or Ein Sof being representative, sort of a picture of the Almighty.
Yes.
And now we have, at the synagogues, the female rabbis and women wearing talis and wearing kippot and all that sort of thing. So isn't that kind of like there's a feminization of this society?
What you're saying is very interesting.
They have it on Saturday.
The Aryeh Kaplan speaks about it.
Yeah.
The problem is it's perverted.
Of course.
But the fact that the feminine rise in these later generations, it does represent the vessel becoming in a completed state. It does mean that. Okay? The problem is it's contorted. It's perverted. Right? People get the wrong idea about it. Instead of understanding this is the rise of the feminine that is in its state of completion. So it's a good sign if you peel off all the crud. Okay? That's what he says. In other words, there's a lot of stuff. You're right.
But it goes together with homosexuality.
No, don't get me started, man. That's way off. Okay, let's just okay.
I think it's more.
That's a whole nother subject. Come on.
I think it's more the Me Too movement.
Let's go. The sages alluded to them by calling them limbs that fell off. That's how the sages call it. And Adam Arishon, when he sinned, the limbs that fell off, it was from this third level that the soul of Shet, the third son of Adam Arishon, was taken. Okay? In other words, those limbs that fell off, that's where Shet got his neshama from. Okay? So Shet was not even a semi-new, he was an old soul. Okay? Section 2, the first type. New souls are those that are born anew from the unification of face to face. The first level is considered to be a completely new soul. It is about such a soul that has descended into this world, born into a body that the sages alluded when they said, come and see. When a person is born, they give him a nefesh, and if he merits more. In other words, this is the statement appearing in the beginning of the Sabbath Mishpatim, that the Rav is quoted in several times. And the first time was actually in chapter 1. We learned about it concerning souls of type 2, and now we were learning that it also applies to souls of type 1. In other words, if a regular standard new soul born gets a nefesh, 13 gets a ruach, and 20 gets a neshama, boom, boom, boom. That's a new soul. Okay? Since it is a first lifetime, he is able to receive from the nefesh of Asiya. That's an address in the realm of Asiya. Nefesh is the lowest part, which means all of Asiya. Until the neshama of Atzilut. He can get from the highest parts of the soul, from the highest of the highest realms. Level after level, as it says, if he merits more. In other words, when we explained here, where's my charts? Okay, here are the 4 realms here. Right? So in other words, he gets his soul from here, and he can go all the way and get his soul from the top of there. That's a new soul. Okay? And boy, this soul can dance. Okay? Okay. The neshama is another nomenclature for the 4th level, chaya. Actually, it's chaya and yechida. Actually, it's neshama chaya and yechida, as I'm going to explain in a minute. Since it is a first lifetime, he can achieve everything. And this he can do without much effort. We've already explained this first level before. However, if during that time he sins and causes a blemish and dies, necessitating a return to this world, then he is called an old Gilgul. In other words, he will no longer be able to attain all the levels in one lifetime. For each new generation level, he will have to reincarnate in a new Gilgul unless he knows our special secret that we've done before, Nafshi V'sicha B'layla. In other words, if a person didn't get all 3 in one lifetime, in his first lifetime, he has to come back down, work on Nefesh, get Nefesh, die, come back down, and then get Ruach, die, and then come back, and then get Neshama. You can't get them all 3 in one lifetime. Before going on to discuss the next level, the Rav comes back to the subject of new souls to make one more point, which he has also taught previously in the beginning of chapter 1. As we have already explained beforehand, the nefesh comes to him at birth, but the ruach cannot come to him until he is 13 years old, and one day, this is where you get bar mitzvah from, the neshama cannot come until he is 20 years or more. In this way, he advances and gains according to his deeds until he receives nefesh ruach neshama of atzilut, according to the level of his years, okay? And then we're going to go to the second level, but I needed to share with you something else, okay? So, because we're talking about Tosefet, and I beginning with the idea of Adam, that really the new souls come, we say, from this, which was an addition to him, right? It wasn't part of his essential soul. They were an additional aspect of his soul. Now, we all know in Shabbat, on Shabbos, we get what's called a neshama yesera. So here he brings down, wrong book, okay? This is from Tikkun Zohar, my favorite sefer, okay? That he brings, don't tell me I didn't mark it here. So he brings unbelievable thing that we can understand also masculine, feminine, and how Shabbos works for us. If we tune into it, you have to tune in, okay? And that's why you have to be in the sync, in the vibration of Shabbat, and then you can tune in to your additional souls, okay? Additional souls means, and even new souls. New souls means added consciousness, okay? New souls is about, oh, okay, I got it. We call it, actually my dad calls it the aha. We're all looking for the aha, right? We all want aha, okay? You want aha all day, okay? So he says, okay, in the night of Shabbat, a person merits to an addition of his nefesh, ruach, neshama from the side of malchut, which is the feminine. In other words, this is how Shabbat works. You get to get an additional soul, but it first starts off with your three parts, levels nefesh, ruach, and neshama of the feminine. Okay? And then it works this way. Follow. The additional nefesh, level 1, comes when we're doing the Kabbalah Shabbat service. Kabbalah Shabbos. I have to go back from, I go to a Sephardic shul, so I have to be careful with my tufs and suffs. Okay? Kabbalah Shabbos. Okay? How's that for the Ashkenazi? When we say Boi Kala, when we bow, we right, Lecha dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbos nei Kabbalah. The last verse of that song, if you'll be in synagogue, you'll know everybody. What does they do? What do they do?
Wow.
They turn around.
They turn around.
Actually, in the Sephardic shuls, they turn around the whole time, right? Yeah, everybody faces the opposite direction, and then they bow 3 times.
Face the entrance of the sanctuary.
If you're facing the east, you turn around. If you're facing the east, you turn back. Okay? When you face the east, which usually most synagogues are facing the east because that's where the Arna Kodesh is, so they absolutely 100 to face turn around. In other words, really the Iker is facing the west. Okay? Because this is where your extra neshama is coming from. And when you bow to the right, you bow to the left, and then you make another boikala silently. You bow 3rd time, and that's where your nefesh, your extra nefesh from the feminine comes. Okay? That's the nefesh. The Tosefes HaRuach comes from Baruch Hu. When you say Baruch Hu etz Hashem Amvorach, right? If you're in depends what synagogue you're in, right? If you get a really opera kind of chazan, right? Love that opera. Okay? Okay? When you get or whatever, Baruch Hu, you get Ruach. Another bowing. Baruch Hu, and you get Ruach. Okay? From the side of Nukva, the feminine. Okay? V'toseves haneshama, and the neshama, the higher part of the feminine, comes from when you say Ufros aleinu sukas shalomecha. The bracha just before the Amida, the blessing just before you say to go into the silent prayer, you say spread upon us, right? Your sukas shalomecha, your sukkah. Covering, I don't know the English translation, right? Ufros aleinu sukas shalomecha. Cover upon us, spread upon us, the sukkah, the canopy. Thank you. I was looking for the word. The canopy of peace. That's your neshama of the feminine. You'll notice in the liturgy that on the liturgy, in the blessing, in the silent prayer, you use the word ba. in it. Okay, when we say Vayenuchu ba kol Yisrael mekadesh shemecha, just before you say mekadesh Shabbat, in the blessing you say ba, which is feminine, which is the nighttime. Basically, is the addition of your souls, 3 levels of the feminine part. Okay, now the masculine is the next day of your extra souls that come in. Okay. B'yom Shabbat, and the day of Shabbat, a man merits to his additional nefesh, ruach, and neshama from the side of Zer Anpin, from the side of the Ein Sof. Okay?
The masculine.
It goes up, baby. Okay? The nefesh, the lower part, comes when you say the word Nishmas kol chai tevarech el shimcha. How am I? Do I rate? Can I go to the opera class now? Okay.
I'm sure.
But Tosefes HaRuach, the Ruach, the next part, is when you make the adjacent, the prayer of Geula to Tefillah. Geula is the last prayer just before you go into the silent prayer in the morning, Shachrit. When you say Baruch Atah Hashem Goal, you're not supposed to say it out loud because then you're going to make somebody say Amen and they can interrupt. You can't interrupt. You always have to go right from Geula, that prayer called Geula, Blessed are you Hashem who redeems Israel, right into your 3 steps forward and you're praying the Shachrit service. That's when you get your Ruach of the masculine side. When do you get the Neshama, right? The Neshama, right? Comes from, like we said earlier, right? That comes from Keter. When you sing Keter, Bamiras Aye Makom Kavodo. In other words, in the Musaf service, when you're standing, saying the Kedusha prayer, answering with all the congregation, you get your Neshama on the side of the masculine. So here, Shabbat goes from the feminine, is the nighttime, the daytime is masculine, and then of course, Shalashudas and Mincha, that's when they're both together. So even in a Shabbos, you start off like this, and then you end up like this. So when you're in Atah Echad, V'shimach Echad, Umi Ka'amcha Yisrael Goy Echad Ba'aretz, in Shemona Esrei, you say you are one, right? Atah Echad, your expression is one. Who is like Israel? Mi Ka'amcha Yisrael Goy Echad Ba'aretz, one nation. That is the ultimate connection. Okay? So Shabbat is like this unbelievable adding of the extra neshama. And I brought down in a class also last Thursday, they don't leave you all at once. That's why it takes till Tuesday to leave you. Why? Because on Monday, the nefesh leaves you. The nefesh leaves you on Sunday. The neshama leaves you. For Motzi Shabbos, all the other higher levels, we call it the soul of the souls, the neshama of the shama leaves you.
Yeah.
And then then on Sunday, right, you're left with your nefesh ruach neshama, right? The nefesh leaves you. The neshama leaves you. And then Monday, your ruach leaves you. And then on Tuesday, your nefesh leaves you, which is why the Am Shunever Rebbe doesn't make Havdalah till Tuesday evening. Okay? Because why? All your neshama, the extra neshama is still hanging out with you. Right? It's just going in layers. It leaves you in layers, right? So therefore, that's why until Tuesday, that's why the Am Shunever doesn't make Havdalah till Tuesday.
So you're on your own from Wednesday and Thursday.
Good question. You asked an amazing question, which I also know. Okay? And now that Wednesday comes.
What was the question?
So what happens on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? You're all on your own.
Thursday, Friday, because it's Kabbalah Shabbat already.
That's Friday night.
Yeah.
You got to sweat on Friday.
Yeah.
You bet you got to. That's when you got to die. Okay? Right? And I love the pain. Love that pain. Bring it on. I am free. Okay? So the idea really here is Wednesday you yearn. And Thursday you yearn. And Friday you yearn. The yearning, the hunger builds the appetite. And that builds for an additional soul. Shabbos is the center of the week. Don't look at it as the end of the week. Everything revolves around Shabbat. That's the way of our masters. Everything revolved around it. Because when you get that extra soul, you get the insights. You get the influx. You get the added consciousness. When it talks about extra souls coming, we're talking about added consciousness. We're talking about, okay. And then the issue really is that when you go into your 6 days of the week, you have to implement your additional consciousness. The chaval is you just can't write it down. Right? In an insight. Sometimes you're in the middle of Shemona Esrei and you Oh man, what an insight that is. Okay, don't worry, it stays with you. Okay, the idea really here is like you see a whole different function in terms of how the additional parts of the soul come in and how they leave. And those souls are called new souls. That's the new influx of energy and information. If you're aware of it, right? You have to be aware of it. Okay, so you have to train your mind to open up and to be aware of the new insights that come into you. Okay, we'll stop here.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't the